So today I appreciate everyone joining us for the weekly Wednesday workshops. Today our topic is intellectual property, a new income. And so first and foremost, I always like to make sure that every single person understands what we're talking about. So that's easily done by definition. So intellectual property refers to creations of the mind, such as inventions, literary and artistic works, designs and symbols, names and images used in commerce. So intellectual property is protected in law by, for an example, patents, copyrights, and trademarks, which enable people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent or create. Now, I want to unbox that. That is the definition. And I want you to start thinking about what intellectual property have you done over the years? Many of us as farmers, business owners have had most likely sometimes monthly, maybe weekly intellectual property opportunities and creations that we have shared with the public, but we really didn't know that one, it was intellectual property, and two, that it could be legalized, that we could, again, patent it, copyright, or trademark our mind, what comes to us and the creation that we do from that. And so with inventions, most of us know many inventors over the, oh my goodness, the centuries and the millennials that have what we're using today. And they have patents, and we know about that. Most of us understand when it comes to inventions. But a lot of our clientele don't realize that intellectual property even falls to them. Like, I didn't know I could create intellectual property. And that's the purpose of this particular workshop today. So let's go to literary artistic works. So of course, we think about our musicians and the sheet music that musicians create. I'm a musician as well, and I understand that as well. And creating and even choreography, and that's what I have been for many years. And so that's my intellectual property when I'm creating those artistic works. That is coming out of my mind to make this beautiful creation for the public. We get to our designs, and of course, that's our architectural and many other different careers and subsets that we can add designs to, but that's anything. So designs can be logos. And I have always been told to make sure I do that because the designs of everything that we do for as our farm business, it's coming out of my mind. So I'm not going online and finding logos or finding different drawings and then adding to it. I've just never have done that. And so, of course, they're coming from my mind and from our family members in our business. And so that includes that. And some of our farmers never think about that their logos and their taglines and just all of the different things that we put with our farm and our subtitles, because I know my son's business has a subtitle, and all of those things come from us. And so that is considered intellectual property. We move to symbols. So if you have a business that you're creating various symbols, again, that sometimes is included within our logos, various symbols that we created and or our graphic designer that releases, because even with my graphic designer, she released the legal rights to my logo because she could have kept them, but I sought out a graphic designer because I did not want her to have that intellectual property. So those symbols that we create, that we draw on a napkin, those types of things, that belong to us. And of course, names. Our names of our businesses, like I said, the different subcategories that we create in our businesses and little little names and nicknames that we create for various things when we're creating podcasts, webinars, ebooks. All of those things are considered intellectual property. And again, we're moving to our images. So I truly wanted to do this workshop because we have so many farmers, so many farmers that do not realize that they are sharing their intellectual property. And so we have to make sure that, one, we're legalizing our intellectual property. And then the second thing that I wanted to briefly talk about is, now that we're going through this crisis, now that we're online more, and some states, of course, has opened up, but we haven't necessarily opened up to do functions when it's, 10 or more people. And so we're still, some portion of our lives is still not totally 100% out there. So we're basically online. And so we're creating stores, we're creating ebooks, we're creating curriculums, programs, apps, all of these things that people are doing right now that I can truly say I have enjoyed, with a lot of the programs that have been introduced free of charge from some entities, just to help us keep our minds going during this crisis. And so one of the things I wanted to share with the farmers is, keep in mind that we want to share this with your community. You as a farmer now have become the go-to person for farming, for agriculture. And so everything that you do from this point forward could be considered, and I want you to consider it, as intellectual property. And so please keep that in mind. Do your legal work if you see fit to do that, and I hope you would. But open yourself up to sharing what you know, and you choose how you want to do that. I'm not going to tell you how, but I just want our farmers to know that now they are the go-to people in their community for all agriculture type of things. So that can be whatever you're doing on your farm. If you're a micro farm, urban farm, large farm, or mid-size, it doesn't matter. If you're doing aquaponics, hydroponics, it doesn't matter, because your community, you're going to be the go-to person. So they're going to be coming to you for that information. Last thing I wanted to share before we move to our partner and presenter is how I wanted to share how I got pulled into intellectual property, or moving into what I have done. As a business owner, I am a farmer, and so I never had on my radar that I wanted to necessarily become a speaker. So I've always spoke in the notion of training. So I do speak, but not in a private sector or it being another stream of income for my business. So I never had that on my radar. But again, like I'm sharing with you, I got thrust into that. And so people just started calling on me to come around the country and just train on basically our farm methodology. Had nothing to do with necessarily my hat and my job title here at NCAT. It was strictly my farm methodology and how our farm is functioning, because it is a generational farm. And so those types of things, I wanted farmers to know that you could get thrust into it, but don't scream and kick. Just go with it. You will enjoy it. And it opens up a world for you, because you do know this information. And so other things that I have created are products, and those different recipes, that's considered intellectual property. Different type of ebooks and curriculums and so forth, YouTube videos that we have done on our farm. All of that is considered intellectual property, and you can do the legal work for that as you see fit. So that was all that I definitely wanted to share with you. That was just on my heart to share, and that's the purpose of creating this workshop, because it's so very important to me that you all know as farmers that you are it now. It's kind of like tag, you're it. And so, but you won't regret it. Please step into that because your community need you. So at this time, I wanted to open up the floor to our partner, and it is Global Growers, Andrea Brown. She will come on, and then I would love for her to be able to introduce the farmer she brought on, as well as he will introduce himself, and then I'll go on to giving him the floor. You can take it away, Andrea.
Thank you, Felicia. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me here, and thank you for inviting the guests that I invited here today, because this topic is so timely for us to be able to shift and do some things differently because the times are changing. My name is Andrea Brown, and I work with Global Growers Network, and that is based in Atlanta, Georgia. And as an organization, we manage several community gardens around Metro Atlanta, and we also have a commercial farm. And one of the things that we do, that I think we do really well, is we aggregate food from the growers in our community, and most of them are refugees and immigrants. And we take their food, because there is a language barrier, we take their food to wholesalers, restaurants, CSAs, and make sure that they are fairly compensated for that. And my role is to go out and create these relationships so that we can get our farmers into those places. Today, I am happy to introduce you to Tenisio Seanima, who has spent the past 13 years as a social activist in the food justice space. And he also recently served as the Farmer Services Coordinator for Georgia Organics. He is also the owner of Nature's Candy Farms, among other various adventures and ventures. He strives to make a positive impact that will create a ripple effect of continual, profound change in his community and the world at large. And he's going to be sharing with us today how he has pivoted during COVID-19, and hopefully you'll be able to benefit from what he shares. Tenisio.
Okay, greetings. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, terrific. Well, thank you for having me here today on this kind of wet and dreary day here in Atlanta. I don't know how the weather is where everyone else is at, but hopefully it's a lot more exciting than the weather we're having here. However, I am glad to see some rain because it's definitely, of course, very beneficial to all of us as agrarians in this work. And so appreciate the introduction, appreciate NCAT for taking the time to do this work. So Felicia, definitely hats off to you. And thank you for having me as a guest today. And Andrea and Global Growers, the same goes for you all. We really appreciate the work that you all are doing. And so I'm going to get right on into it. I've got a lot of slides, so I'm going to kind of move through it as quickly as possible, but definitely give enough attention to each area just so you all can take some notes. If you're listening over the phone, if anything I say gets by you and you want me to send you the slides, I am more than happy to do so. And I'm also available for any questions if anyone has those. My phone number is 678-600-1245, 678-600-1245, and I am available at naturescandyfarms@gmail.com. So with that out of the way, we're going to be talking about really just this whole concept of how to take intellectual property and turn it into new streams of income. And so I always like to start off all of my presentations with just giving reverence to the individual who paved the way for me. That would be my great-grandfather, Augusta Long, who started the August Long Estate in Gause, Texas in 1882. That land and that farm still does belong to my family, and so we are centenarian landowners with over 138 years of land ownership. And I also want to give reverence to my father, who is an inventor, who actually does have a patent on a wheelbarrow called the Swift Rear Wheelbarrow. And so for those who are looking at the image, you can see this particular wheelbarrow actually has 3 wheels. He even has a 4-wheel version. And he has that as an actual patented agricultural product. So that is just intellectual property at work. And I always like to acknowledge that effort. Now, I want to quickly just go into some of the context to me behind how what we're going through now in this time with COVID-19 really correlates with another point in history. And that is that point in which the Morrill Land Grant Acts were established. So for those who, of course, are familiar with the Morrill Acts, you know that there was one in 1862 as well as one in 1890. And those were brought forth by Justin Smith Morrill. He was a congressman. And basically what the Morrill Acts did is provide federal funding for public educational institutions to be established. Now, being that the first one was established in 1862, that meant that certain population members were not allowed to attend these schools, that being those individuals of African descent who were in chattel captivity at that time. And so it wasn't until 1890 that land grant schools that were available for them came to be. If you're not familiar with some of the land grant schools, 1862s would be like Texas A&M, Florida A&M, University of Georgia, the likes. And then the 1890s, of course, would be schools like Fort Valley State University, Southern University, Alcorn State, Prairie View, those type of schools. So being that there's a gap between 1862's Act and 1890's Act, there had to be some efforts that were put forth to make sure that those citizens who could not receive education during that period in time got it. And let's remember, these acts were passed at a time in which there was brain drain that had happened to the country, primarily due to the Civil War. So you had a lot of skills that people possessed that when the war had killed a lot of these people off, that information was lost. And so there had to be a way to really stimulate the education of individuals to get back into being a productive society. And so with that being said, during that gap, one of those institutes was Tuskegee, which was founded 8 years before 1892, 9 years before in 1881. That, of course, was founded by Booker T. Washington, and one of his most notable educators that was on staff there, of course, was none other than George Washington Carver. Now, one other name that's typically not talked about, though, in this Tuskegee Institute history is the name of Thomas Monroe Campbell. And Thomas Monroe Campbell was actually the very first cooperative extension agent to be hired by the USDA. Now, why was he the first agent? Many people who are familiar with Tuskegee's history knows that they actually had a mobile education program, which was known as the Jessup wagon in its initial development. And this was a literal wagon that Dr. Carver, as well as Thomas Monroe Campbell, would take around the community and use to educate the community on different skills, such as, of course, agriculture. They would deal with masonry, they would deal with lumber, carpentry, of course, and many other skills. Now, this was so that the community who couldn't necessarily attend Tuskegee were not forgotten about and were still provided education. And so right there, you have a form of intellectual property that Tuskegee figured out was very important, because when there was no way for the people to get to education, they made the way. And so eventually that particular effort became known as the Booker T. Washington Agricultural School on Wheels. And then the USDA approached Tuskegee about replicating that model across the entire land grant system. And that's where you actually get cooperative extension from. And thus Thomas Monroe Campbell, a former Tuskegee employee, became the first agent. So very, very interesting history, and definitely I encourage you to look it up more. If you ever get a chance to go to the George Washington Carver Museum, they have an entire section on that. Now, moving forward, there's one other individual out of the Tuskegee clan, if you will, by the name of Mr. Booker T. Watley. And he published a book in 1987, which was called How to Make $100,000 Farming 25 Acres. Now, of course, if you think about what $100,000 was worth in 1987, then it's clear that if you were to take that same 25 acres now, you would definitely see an increase in that amount of revenue. But point being, what Mr. Watley was able to do was use the experience that he had working at Tuskegee and basically comprise in a book that systematically showed you, here are the different enterprises within your business that you want to make sure you not only are recognizing, but you know how to structure in a way in which it all kind of works. It's like all of the pistons are firing together, and that's how you create extra revenue. And so his book is basically an entire suite of how to take intellectual property and really put it to good use. So I encourage anyone who's never had the chance to read this book to definitely find a copy. And again, it's called How to Make $100,000 Farming 25 Acres. And I'm going to move forward with just one last individual of notable mention, and that would be the one and only Cesar Chavez, who founded the United Farm Workers Union in 1962. And quite simply, again, this is just an example of when there was no way of an individual who made a way to make sure that his community was represented, not only by way of their labor, but by way of their mental capacity, their intellectual property, and not be robbed of opportunities to optimize and maximize the potential that that intellectual property could provide. So again, honorable mention to Cesar Chavez. So now, with all of that history lesson out of the way, I want to move into how you can utilize technology to really begin to develop some of the tools that you'll be using to make your intellectual property work for you. And one of those tools is known as virtual assistants. An example of virtual assistants is where you could basically hire a freelancer online to provide certain services to you that normally you would have to have a person on staff to do. So that could be things such as building a website, helping you comprise a blog, or designing logos for your business, and many other services. One of the websites that actually does this, and this is by no means a plug, this is just an example, is Fiverr.com, spelled Fiverr. There's other ones such as Elance, Odesk, but these type of companies are companies in which you can go online and for very nominal fees actually hire people to perform services for you that will allow you to make sure that your time is being optimized while you're running your farm business. You can have someone else doing some of that administrative work to get your brand and your intellectual property into a formal version. And so this is just a quick screenshot of one of the services. This is a gentleman that says, I will be your social media manager and personal assistant for literally $10. And this particular service is one in which he'll provide it for 3 days straight. He'll help you schedule posts. He'll do page and channel evaluation, accounts management, content creation. And the goal is to, of course, help increase traffic to your business. So that's just one way in which you can take what you're thinking about and kind of have this guy serve as a consultant for you, and then turn what you're thinking about into an actual action plan that now can be implemented. And so this is a very, again, nominal way to achieve that and still be able to keep all of your efforts moving forward without any delay. Another version of virtual assistants is websites such as Canva, in which you yourself can go on there and use that for graphics design. So if you're not an expert at graphics designing, or you don't have skills to use apps like Photoshop or other applications, you can go on here where they have templates designed for you and really just plug and play. So I know, for example, the flyer that was created for today's event was actually created in Canva, from what I understand. And so that's a very quick, easy way to reduce the learning curve. Take your ideas, put them into a form that is applicable and digestible by today's audience, and get it out there with very little effort. And again, this is just one example. There are other companies that do this, but Canva is one of the more popular ones. Now, that's just quickly talking about virtual assistants. Again, I encourage you all to dive deeper into learning some of the different services that are offered, but I really want to move into like enterprise development because it's really about taking these ideas that you all have, and I'm not here to tell you which one is good or which one's bad. All of them are good as far as I'm concerned, but how do you turn them into an enterprise so that now when you're running your business, you've got several different enterprises all working together to help you increase income. And so we're going to talk about that using my farm business, Nature's Candy Farms, and how I've been able to take ideas that I have and leverage the different tools that I've already shown you and others. So one of the first thing I'm going to encourage everyone to remember is there's always room for more collaboration, right? As farmers, we know about, of course, cooperative economics, and I'll touch on that quickly after I do this quick intro on collaboration, but it's time for us to really begin to bring our efforts together, you know, whether it be just sharing tools, sharing knowledge, sharing seeds, selling our produce together, whatever it may be, collaboration is very important. And so this is just an example of a CSA brochure where me and another farmer combine our food together as a subscription service to our customers. And so we have both of our websites listed there. It's not confusing to people because when you go onto some of the other pages, it breaks down what our collaboration is all about. People can use this brochure to check off what food they want. And then we even have on here a credit card authorization form to where now the money is collected. Both of us can keep up with this information and we're able to just keep this relationship going. We've been doing this now for about 7 years. And thus, when COVID-19 hit, we were already in a position to where we were able to optimize the opportunity to start selling to people through CSAs because when, as individuals, the demand would have outstripped our supply, as a collective, we were able to keep going and we never fell short and our sales have increased. So collaboration is something I would definitely encourage because again, you know, two heads are better than one, as the old cliche says. And of course, examples of cooperatives are such as the one that I'm a member of, the West Georgia Farmers Cooperative. This is a particular organization that's been around for over 50 years. Again, using collaboration in a way in which everybody's mental capacity is brought to the table and thus we developed something that is sustainable, so much so that here we are half a century later and we're still doing our thing. Now, social media. I know it's one of those tools that oftentimes many people can be intimidated by. You know, I think I'm probably of like the generation that is at the cutoff point of using it. I'm in my 40s and, you know, there's a few people a little bit older than me that still use it. But for the most part, I know it is one of those things that's typically considered to be kind of a young folks game. What I will say is no matter what your age is or your fluidity with social media, you really want to begin to make it a part of your tools to express your ideas, because as time moves on, we're just getting a lot more, we're moving towards interacting with each other through technology. It's funny, I always joke and say this idea of social distancing is really not new. People are treating it as if it's new because it's being mandated. But oftentimes, most people are interacting with a lot of their customers and with other individuals through a gadget. So, you know, this is the perfect time to even take advantage of the fact that people are stuck in front of a computer or a phone and really put your ideas into motion so that it makes you more money. So examples are Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor, many others. You can choose what works for you, but you really want to integrate that into your systems. And so even though I know that's something you've probably heard before, I'm just going to share some examples with you of how I've been able to leverage it. Here's just an image, for example, of me posting up the contents that are going to be in my CSA for that particular week. Whether people are going to order it that week or not is not as important to me, as long as people can see that I have good quality food, that it's in an abundant, healthy form, and that, you know, it's something that looks appetizing. And so this was a post that was actually put up on May 24th, just a couple of days ago. And within that 3-day period, this has already gotten 950 people to look at it. And then 78 of those people actually engaged with the post, meaning they clicked on an image or they clicked on my website link, and I didn't have to pay anything for that. That was just me sitting in my kitchen and saying, you know what, how can I make this food look attractive and put it out there so that people will then begin to come to me. And for those who can read, you can see there's people who are even commenting saying, hey, you know, what is this dark purple herb that's in there with the basil? I'm loving it. You know, I can interact with these people and answer questions. And so this is just one example of how I've used this tool. Another one is just me standing at my partner farm, which is Atlanta Harvest, holding up a bag of our produce. Again, this particular post reached 1,700 people. and it got 142 engagements, and you can see people communicating with us on this post. So simple, effective, just sharing what we do with the community and getting a response in return. Here's one that I just put up 1 day ago, and it's literally just a video of me tilling a yard. It's me just preparing a yard that a person has hired me to prepare so that they can grow their own food. And I used the phone's camera to do a time-lapse video in which it took about 5 minutes worth of footage and sped it up so that you could watch it all in about 30 seconds, almost like those videos of plants growing from seed to full growth in a matter of seconds. We did the same thing with this footage, and in 1 day it got 244 views. This has been able to bring people to me who are asking me, hey, how can I book your services to now help build a garden in my backyard? And again, it didn't cost me anything. And that was on Instagram, by the way. One other example is I've used Nextdoor to be able to just basically promote my delivery service. Whenever people order food from our company, we actually deliver our CSAs. And so as you can see here, we just put a post up, and I see I need to go fix a typo. I spelled delivery wrong. Either way, I was putting this up recently just to see what kind of traction I will get. So I just put it up today. We'll see what the results are. But the point is, this has cost me nothing. I literally took a bandit sign, which is those signs that you typically see to have like politicians advertising their campaigns, or they may say, we buy houses. I had some of those produced, and those signs say local and organic produce delivered to your home with a phone number. I've used those signs for years just in people's yards that allow me to, and that has garnered traction. But also in this case, I just took a picture of it and put it up online. So we'll see what happens. But those signs cost me about $1.25 a sign. And so not only with the signs themselves, with this post, I'm able to get traction just off of putting up a quick tagline and my phone number, and that's it. Last but not least, I actually reached out to some of the publications. Now, you know, we all know of the different farm publications that are out there, but how often do we actually take the effort to call them up and say, hey, would you be interested in featuring me in your publication? Well, for me, I was a journalist before my farmer life, and so I knew, you know, how to kind of go about doing that. And so I literally contacted the Old Farmer's Almanac in 2018 and asked them if there was any opportunities for me to be featured. And sure enough, they actually had an article that they were going to be producing about the future of farming and how farmers are basically changing the landscape of how farming used to be into this new version of small scale farming, of course, kind of reigniting, and sustainable farming. And so I got featured in the Old Farmer's Almanac in 2018. All it took was just a simple phone call, no effort beyond that. And this was able to get a lot of traction for me online as people who buy this particular book got their subscription and started getting excited when they saw my face in it. So that's a lot to kind of unpack, but just know that social media, again, is a huge tool in which you can take your ideas and really put them out there with very little effort. You can even set up social media to schedule when things post. So if you're not the type of person who's going to stay in front of it all day long, pick 1 day out the week, set up a marketing campaign and say, okay, I'm going to produce all of my posts and just put them on an actual schedule. And social media will actually post those for you automatically, so you don't have to go back and do it yourself. But now I want to move into this idea that I think is really applicable to what we're dealing with COVID-19, and how it also kind of, we'll say, veggie backs off of the efforts of what was being done by Tuskegee Institute with the Jessup Wagon and the Booker T. Washington Mobile School. And that's this idea of coaching, consulting, civic engagement, and public speaking. And so if you notice here, for those who can see the screen, this is yet another example of how I took some of the tools I've already mentioned and created just a quick flyer. And it shows before and after images of a yard. Basically, it's saying, would you want your yard to look like this? And it's a picture of a yard that I've turned into a farm. And it then says, dude, you want that yard to produce all of this? And as you can see, I've got bushels and bushels of food that was harvested out of that property. And then all I did is I put my phone number and email on there. That particular post reached about 234 people. And I can tell you for a fact, I definitely got people contacting me with this post. So that allowed me to kind of get into the coaching arena where people who have property and they want to turn that property into something productive, they look to me as the expert. Instead of having to call up a university or, wait for, let's say, cooperative extension to open up, they can come to us, the farmers, right now, and they can begin to leverage our experience. And quite honestly, we are the experts. We're the people who are doing this day in and day out. So people really want that authentic feel and relationship with a farmer because they feel like they can trust them to guide them down the right direction. And so here's just another example of where a buddy and I were doing some air layering techniques to a fruit tree. And we just basically put an image of us showing the finished air layering that we did, of course, which is a way to help propagate a new fruit tree off of an existing one. And again, all we said is, would you like to grow your own fruit tree for less than the price of a cup of coffee? And we had the email there. We've gotten a lot of traction off of that. And now we're preparing people for the fall and allowing them to know that, hey, we'll schedule some time to prepare some cuttings for you so that you can grow your own fruit trees. And people pay us for that service. Coaching has been something that, again, has been a new endeavor. And so what I did is I made sure that I had a tool that helped me keep up with this effort. This screenshot, for those who are looking, is just a screenshot of a project management tool that I use online that's free. It's called ClickUp, CLICKUP.com. And this particular tool allows you to just really keep up with different projects. And so all I've done is I've taken every single client that has called me and put them into this particular database. And I'm able to track where I'm at in my conversations with them as a cold lead all the way into a warm lead, where the goal is to turn them into a paying client. And so far, this particular list, which has about 24 names of it on it, which just in the last few weeks has already resulted in about 5 paying clients, some of which who've paid in upwards of even $1,000 or more just to have me come and show them how to do what I do or help them do what I do. None of that, again, had to be paid for. It was just a Canva flyer made for free, a Facebook post that was posted for free, and then a project management tool that was for free. The only thing that was spent was my time. And that resulted in many people contacting me when this is a time in which, even though sales have been relatively good, if there's any lulls, I'm able to just take those downtimes and turn them into something that is productive and still continue to make money. So this is just a screenshot of how effective a good campaign can be in getting you clients. This is a screenshot going back to Facebook of where a client, after I finished their product, posted about what I did for them. It was a young lady who's a nurse and her husband is a doctor. They own their own medical practice. My wife happens to work there. And so they asked her, hey, could your husband come and build a garden for us? After I did, they posted it online and they've been, tagging others and saying, hey, you want to check this guy out. So just taking that effort of on the front end, reaching out to the community that's looking for us and turning it into something that is productive. And I can tell you right now, everybody's looking to grow. So if you haven't thought about reaching out to the community and being a coach, now is the time to do it. Another thing I would really encourage people to do is reach out to some of the nonprofits that do educational work around agriculture in your community. Even the schools, such as the land grant schools, and go to their cooperative extension offices. What you'll find is that many of these institutions are oftentimes looking for farmers to be the educators. How do we know that? I'm sitting right here on NCAT's webinar helping to educate you all, right? And so if you go to these organizations, you'll find out that having a farmer as the subject matter expert is very beneficial for them because, again, it just adds that extra bit of authenticity to the work that they do. And so this is just an image of me hugging some students out of a program that I worked with through an organization called Habesha. And Habesha basically taught community members how to build urban agricultural locations in their community. And so these young ladies had just finished giving their presentation to an audience. And after they were done, they just rounded up and gave me a big old hug. And so I was extremely excited just to feel like I had made an impact in their lives. So reach out to some of these nonprofits and see if you might be that next expert that they're looking for. Here's another image of some students that I helped. They actually did some business presentations to a group of people, almost like a Shark Tank. And then the winner got awarded some seed money to start their own agricultural business. So this is me just, again, serving as the person that taught them how to do that pitch and how to make sure that they include the right things in their presentation so that they will give an excellent presentation to the audience. And then last but not least, here's an example of me and some individuals that spoke at an actual farm conference. Again, reach out to these nonprofits, the Georgia Organics of the world, the Southern SOGs, and see if they're looking for subject matter experts, because whether it even becomes something you get paid for or not, just the ability to be in someone's Rolodex and them know they can count on you may become future opportunities for you. But of course, it allows you to network and connect with other people where, again, you might be able to take some of the ideas that are, churning in your head and leverage them off of someone and bounce them off of people and really kick rocks and figure out how to take those ideas and bring them to the next level. So this is, of course, me speaking at a conference, but there were some great networking opportunities as well. So I kind of fed two birds with one seed in this particular experience. And this is an example for those who can see the image of where using civic engagement can, again, allow you to take your ideas and put them into action. What you'll find is that a lot of cities now, remember, agriculture is typically controlled within the government sector at the federal level, the state level, and the county level. But now cities are starting to get involved, and these cities oftentimes really don't know where to begin. And so in this particular image, this is the city of East Point, Georgia, that is looking to put together their own agricultural plan. And they needed farmers to help them really brainstorm what are the things that farmers would need to be, or what things do farmers need that this plan can help address. And so they called me and several other farmers to serve as consultants in this process. And not only are we paid for that service, but now we get to ensure that the legacy of agriculture in this city is supportive of our comrades who are coming up behind us or who are already out there doing the work. So I encourage you to definitely reach out to some of your city officials and see what their plans are around agriculture, because what you find is that as people move from out of the rural areas more into the cities, there's going to be a lot more interest from these cities in making sure that there's economic development opportunities and that they have the right experts to teach them how to do it right. Now, I'm going to close with this last slide and just show you all literally how all of what I've talked about has equated to increases in income just from the month of February of this year during COVID-19 up till now. As you can see, the screen shows yearly gross sales by way of a bar graph. The gray bar that you see is 2019 sales, and the blue ones are 2020. And so, as this particular chart shows, I had a 124% increase in sales activity between 2019 and this year within the same month, just due to the fact that all of those last few slides that I showed you about coaching, civic engagement, public speaking, all of that kind of stuff is in high demand right now, and it's showing right there on the chart. To have a 125% increase in business would make the average investor flip their lid. So I want you all to know that you all are the experts right now, and the community is really looking for you. They're waiting for you to bring your skills to the table, whether it be things, again, that you have that are products that you have to sell, or if it's just your expertise to help people really get, what they are currently dealing with, which might be just a piece of property that's been left to them through their family, or a home that they have in an urban environment that they'd really like to, transform into a garden. Whatever it may be, you are that expert and people are looking for you. And so I'll close with just make sure that you take your ideas, really think about them, bounce them off of some of your fellow comrades, and really find ways to put them into action now while the iron is hot. We're going to hope that this isn't a fluke, this idea of people really gravitating towards local agriculture. We're going to hope that this becomes the new normal. But whether it is or it isn't, you can use these skills that I've just shown you to really stand the test of time. And so I hope that what I've shared with you has been beneficial, and that I'll be able to look at your sales next year and see some increase as well. And so with that being said, I don't want to wear out my welcome. I've talked a lot, so I'm going to open it up for any questions or comments. And again, this has been a pleasure. I really appreciate being able to share this time with you all today.
This is Gino.
Wow, that's amazing, Tenisio. Thank you so much for that. We have our first question. Go ahead, Mr. Jean.
I just want to thank him for his presentation. It was very good, very informative. I have some blackberries that are starting to come into harvest right now, so I've got to go open up my U-pick. Thank you.
Awesome. Yes, sir. Thank you. Where are you located, by the way? Your mic is off.
I'm in Hernando County, Florida, and a lot of what you're saying I'm finding to be true. I'm also an engineer with the Southwest Florida Water Management District. And
Yes, sir.
I've been using a lot of my social media outreach. And our first day of opening of the season was Saturday, and I've never had a day that good. It was
Right.
It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I think this is one of those years where a lot of produce farmers in particular are going to go gangbusters. And I do feel, unfortunately that, what's happened with the livestock industry is a sad thing. Hopefully that can really bounce back. But whatever way you can, leverage this moment, because there's definitely people seeking our products in droves.
Y'all need some Florida blackberries, figs, or passion fruit, let me know.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hi, Miss Sandra.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hey, Felicia.
All right. How
Okay.
are you?
I'm so excited to be on. I am doing just wonderfully. Thank you. I've been blessed, and my daughters and grandkids are here, so it's giving me some head starts on the season and everything. And I'm just really excited to be in on this telecast. I'm so glad I saw it in time to be here. It has been wonderful. I love the educational and instructional material that you all have shared with us so far. I have a question. I find that when the conversation was about consulting and so forth, that there are a number of people that call me from time to time who have questions about gardening or composting or how to grow this or when, because I'm a farmer's almanac by the moon planter. And how in the world do you, and I gladly share this information with them among other things also, but how is that then transitioned from, hey, I'm glad to give you and help you and come and see what you're doing and all of that, to actually a financial benefit?
Mm-hmm. Excellent question.
That's the part where I'm not.
Yes, ma'am. I'll say this much.
I'm sorry?
Well, I was just going to answer your question. I'll say I'm more than happy to share with you my system. If you want to give me a call, again, it's 678-600-1245. But quickly, I mean, admittedly, all I've literally done is once people have called me, I've given them a quote unquote free consultation where I've just asked them some questions about what they're doing. And then I'll just give them some information to really help them understand what the process is. And what you'll find is that most people, again, they'll gauge you off of that first call. If you sound like you know what you're talking about, from there, you can just ask them, say, hey, based on what I've shared with you, would you love me to come out and actually do an in-person consultation? Because once you do that in-person consultation, now your time is really going to, reveal, if this person is serious or not. And what you'll find is most people will pay you for that in-person consultation. In fact, all people will. I haven't had a person say no yet. And then if that consultation turns into them needing you to like really hold their hand and do the work for them, you charge what you feel it's worth. I can tell you right now, I've been able to do an upwards of about $60 an hour just, doing the work for people. That could be tilling a bed. That could be helping them go to the state farmers market and pick out seeds and plants. Or that could be helping them understand how to read the back of a seed pack. Anywhere from $25 an hour for the consultation all the way up to $60 an hour for doing the work. People are paying those prices because they really value what we have to offer. And I can share with you my system on how to go from start to finish and closing that. And that's, of course, for anybody on the call if they'd like to learn more.
Great. I will be in touch. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. Any other questions out there?
Yeah.
Jinx blackout, Felicia. While you all think, if you have any others, again, feel free to reach out to me. My email is natures. Candy phone the other day, so that's why I called you. Number is 678-00125. But it sounds like we got another person here.
I basically open up the caller.
No, I just
Caller, do
called
you
you
have a
on the
question?
way to the house from church.
Oh, well,
So I left.
He's talking to someone else.
Yes. So I had muted them, wanted to make sure that they could ask the question if they need to. Anyone else? We're here for you. We have the time for you. And I'm so glad that Tenisio gave his information for us, his contact information, because sometimes we go through these workshops and then you don't think of your question until we're offline. And so please make sure that you touch bases with him. And of course, we here at NCAT are here to help you and assist you as well. So definitely, if you have questions now, we're here. And again, we don't mind answering questions that's not this particular topic. I always say that we're here as farmers to talk about agricultural topics. And so if you have a question or some type of issue you're having on your farm, because I know it's different right now. People are farming that have never farmed. And so they have questions. And so we're here for that. And sometimes that's why people jump on these calls, just to see, can it benefit them? So we're definitely here for that as well.
You know, I want to give one more tidbit, just while if anybody else has a question, they can ask. One of the tools that's really helped me, you all, is Google Earth. And I'll tell you why, because I can literally give a consultation anywhere in the globe. You know, now, of course, you want to know the regions if you're going to give a consultation. But we all know how to pretty much do some basic research on a region that we're not familiar with. But I've had people, for example, in Virginia, I've had people in California, and I think even in Kentucky contact me. And so what I did is I took down their address, plugged it into Google Earth, and I do this for everyone, but just showing you the value of, again, being able to do it even across state lines. I've been able to give consultations with people as if we're standing right there at their property, because all I have to do is just look at the property based on a trajectory that shows me where there's light, where there's not light, where there's slopes, where there's water, you know, what direction is the property facing relative to the sun. And you can do a lot just with Google Earth as a farmer. So just know that, again, even if you're not in a community where there's an audience, if you use social media, you can connect with people that are in other areas that they do want to hear from you. And you can use Google Earth as a great tool to help with consultations. I mean, I've seen yards where immediately I'm like, oh, there's way too many trees. You know, you're probably going to have to make these adjustments. And, you know, people value that information. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I didn't get a chance to put that in the presentation as another one of those virtual assistant tools.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I have utilized that as well. It is a great tool because even we were doing, because mainly our commercial stuff is livestock. We do other things, but that's the main one. So I'm big on helping farmers do management intensive grazing and learning how to do paddocks and stuff like that. So I utilize Google Earth to even put out our water lines, knowing where they're going to be. So yeah, Google Earth really, really can help us as farmers, where you're not necessarily going into the FSA office or having to call or get emailed these maps, because that was the way the extension, that's how they have always done it.
That's right.
but now we have the tools that we as quote unquote lay people, but we are still experts in our field, can utilize these tools online to do just the same thing. And it's more community engagement. The people know us and our works and stuff. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And then the other, if I believe you're on the computer, if you could type your question in the chat, we can go that route as well. Yeah.
So Felicia, you hear me now? This is Sandra.
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
So Tanisha basically wanted to say that she didn't want you all to think that because there was no question that she didn't very much appreciate the value of what she's heard in this. It's just been great. I don't know why you couldn't hear her. She's downstairs. You're on the computer too? So anyway, she just wanted to let you know how much she appreciated.
Oh, yes, ma'am. We appreciate you all.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, the work that you all are doing in Alabama is very appreciative. And it's just so many farmers that are doing great works around the country and definitely in our region, the southeast region of the country. So we're just grateful for all our farmers, and we're just here as farmers to help one another. Because again, we have expertise that we could teach one another, but then also what Tenisio is saying, we can bring each other in on speaking engagements because we have expertise in various things that our other farmer partners may not have. And so, yeah, this is truly a time that we can work together and capitalize on the need.
Another quick farm hack for those of you all who are either within an urban environment or close enough to one is, as I'm sure many of you all know, we can get mulch delivered, to our properties for free. Them big old truckloads that you clearly aren't going to put in a person's yard, you can put on a farm for free because obviously those companies normally have to pay to get rid of it. Well, but guess what? The people who are now interested in gardening are typically going to Home Depot, Lowe's, or any of these other hardware stores and paying for that mulch. You might have a big old pile of it sitting right there in your yard. So I encourage people to definitely go and kind of do some pricing and figure out how you can take that load and shrink it down into either like refuse bag size portions or even truckloads. Because so far I've already been able to deliver about 4 truckloads in my pickup truck to people who just want mulch in their garden. Again, took something that didn't cost me anything. It's, going to be used on my farm regardless. And they can always, come and deliver it to me and replenish it. But a home gardener or, just let's say a school that wants to mulch a school garden, they don't have that capability all the time. So they're reaching out to farmers such as me and saying, hey, do you mind bringing us just a pickup truckload? And so it's been, a very easy operation. Takes about 10 minutes to load it into the truck, probably about another hour to get it out of there, and just the time to drive to the place. There's just so many different skills and tools that we all have right now that are in high demand, even down to just equipment that we have, people needing to have, basic lawn care done. I've mowed some lawns and trimmed some yards. Whatever I got to do with all this equipment that I would use on my farm, I'm bringing it to the public right now so that it complements, the work and fills in some of the gaps. So just be creative, y'all. Come up with as many different enterprises as you can.
Definitely. And I got to put the plug in. Always, yes, ma'am, it is true. Always remember your children and grandchildren, starting their businesses early because they're out there with us. They're working.
Right.
And so they understand what we do. My plug is that we have created that within our farm with my sons. And they each individually have farm operational businesses. So it may not necessarily be raising anything, but it includes agriculture because they've been raised in it their whole lives. And so that's all they know right now. And so they're utilizing it to capitalize as well. And just like Tenisio, we have the equipment. And so my oldest son go out and I was speaking about the tagline and kind of subtitle. His business states, his subtitle is "He do what you don't want to do." And
There you go.
so that's
That's
what Tenisio said. He comes out,
right.
he loves doing it though. So it's not a burden to him, but it's burden to other homeowners or people that have never ever done that. So please always remember our youth. They have talents as well. So don't forget them, because they're right there next to us daily. And so they have this expertise as well. And we need to teach them how to create businesses, just like Tenisio say with the business pitch. They're willing and ready and able, but we have to open up the doors to allow them to.
And look, I'm a testament to that, because
You
I
know,
started this work at 12 years old. You know, my father put me out there and was like, look, here's how to make an invoice. Here's how to do this job. And, you know, next thing you know, I was off in the races, and I've had my 9-year-old, excuse me, and 6-year-old with me lately. They've been looking a little bored because it ain't the summer that they expected they were going to have. But I know that I'm planting some seeds in their brain about, you know, how daddy makes his money, but also how they too can do this type of work. So that's a very excellent point that you've made there.
Yeah.
well, when you speak about youth, you're speaking straight directly to my heart. That is my vision for Gardens of Huckleberry Hill, is to have youth here on the land being involved with all aspects of what it means to be just free, really. And it's been wonderful, the small things I've been able to do so far, but not nearly what it is that I envision. And I'm really glad my grandkids are here. Now they're just 3, 4, and 6. And they come to the garden every morning and ask, is there something I can do to help? I think it's just great. At first I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm out here trying, and then I realize there's all kinds of little things that they can do that they find pleasure with, and they do. They help put on the compost. And compost, of course, is one of the things that I sell here from the Gardens of Huckleberry Hill, because my goats produce it for me. And that's one of the things I've been able to turn into a little cash flow. And it's like you say, now with what's happening with the virus, the sales of compost have really increased. Not nearly what I would like for it to be, but it certainly has increased from what it was before. So all of that is just, to me, a part of the country living thing, being able to farm, grow yourself. Organic is what I do for the community and for other farm cooperatives. And to be able to share that information, to be able to someday get more kids here on the land. They love it when they are here. We find ways to make work attractive as opposed to something that you don't want to do. And that's my dream. That's my vision, to get that going, to get buildings up, and to have that whole part of it started. So you guys are so inspiring and motivational. So
And is this Miss Sandra Simone speaking?
it is.
Yes.
So I don't know if you remember me, but I had come out to your farm some years back with the organization Hobby Shop. We had come out to your property, and I remember you were talking the same vision back then. You were talking about your jazz singing career.
Yep.
You would come to Atlanta, the
There
church
you
on
go.
grounds. Well, it's a pleasure to hear your voice.
Yeah, so it's great to be remembered. Thank you for that, because you all, did something out here. We were involved with each other for a little minute there when I first began, I think, this farming thing. So, yeah, you're part of my history with that, for sure. I remember being there, and I remember some of the things that you guys were doing in the community. Yeah, it's cool.
But do we have any more questions? And again, I'm so grateful Tenisio shared his contact information. Also here at NCAT, I'm under Felicia B, Felicia, B as in boy, at ncat.org. So Felicia B at ncat.org. And the phone number for me is 479-575-1386. And I always give the disclaimer, please let it ring several times, because it is forwarded to my personal phone. So because we all, of course, are working remotely. So just let it ring several times and it eventually get to me. So if we don't have any other questions right now, we can close out this workshop. But again, we're so very grateful for the people that hopped on with us today for the weekly Wednesday workshop, and so very grateful for Global Growers as being one of our partners for many years, and to bring this phenomenal speaker. I've been knowing Tenisio for a while, but I'm so grateful that you were able and had the time to share with you, because I've always watched you all these years. I follow you on Facebook. I'm just not close to you. But I definitely know what you do. And so we're just very grateful to have your expertise as well on here. And hopefully we can do this again, Tenisio, and definitely with Global Growers, for us bringing in farmers within our region, because this is what it's about. We want to definitely show our region and as well as the country, because again, I said this will be broadcast to our national audience rather. And so we definitely want to bring in our farmers that we're helping. I mean, you know, proof is in the pudding. And so we have been doing this for several years, and we want to bring our farmers in and share basically the information that they have now implemented. And so we thank you, Tenisio. We thank all that was here. And again, thank you, Andrea, for your partnership in helping us formulate this workshop this week. And if nothing else, we will close it out. Thanks again, Tenisio.